Father-in-law Kaido's monster cells create the strongest beasts. 41. The influence of fairy beans on the world pattern. Jack learned to be smart and stopped being Taihanhan, and deliberately chose the marine base farthest from Ake Ainu to attack. As a result, every time Ake Ainu arrived, he could only see Marine's body in one place. Ake Ainu's teeth were about to shatter, and he hated Jack to the core. Just when he was about to mobilize all the marine forces in New World to surround Jack, Jack ran back to Wonokuni in a hurry. Ake Ainu became more and more annoyed when she learned of this. But there was nothing she could do. He didn't stop at New World any longer, and returned to Marine headquarters non-stop. Go straight to Marshal Sengoku's office. Liu Xing, the concubine of all animals, invented a medicine called Xiandu, which can regenerate a severed limb and restore any injuries in an instant. After hearing Ake Ainu's report, Sengoku stood up in a gaffe. Ake Ainu nodded solemnly and said, "Yes, this is what a branch captain saw with his own eyes." Sengoku was speechless in shock. After a long time, he came back to his senses and smiled bitterly. "I thought freak cells were amazing enough, but I didn't expect that guy to invent this heaven-defying drug again. Alas, why is he not in our Marine's camp, but the son-in-law of Kaido of the Beasts?" The resourceful General Sengoku actually said such a thing. Obviously Liu Xing's invention really gave him a headache. So much so that Sengoku gave birth to the absurd idea that Liu Xing would be in the Marine camp. Garp was also present, and he laughed when he heard it. "Sengoku, who told you that you didn't have a beautiful daughter? But it doesn't matter, we have a lot of beautiful girls in Marine, like Momousagi and Hina. Let them use their beauty tricks and grab that Liu Xing." Sengoku blew his beard and stared, cursing. "Garp, keep your mouth shut. You have caused me a lot of trouble. World government's #1 enemy, the leader of the revolutionary army, is your son." Garp laughed even louder, grinning while eating senpai. The old man has an old life, and he can't afford such a serious crime. Facing the rogue Garp, Sengoku has nothing to do but get angry. Fortunately, Garp is not an ignorant person, and he quickly got up and said solemnly, "That fairy bean, if it really has the effect Sakazuki said, it will have a huge impact on the current world pattern." Sengoku frowned, clearly agreeing with Garp's words. "Just imagine, what role will the fairy bean, which can instantly heal the wound, play in the war? If one party has the fairy bean, they are not afraid of being injured, they can fight with will, and immune to death no matter how they fight. If the other side does not have immortal beans, it will be continuously consumed. Even if there are more troops than the other side, defeat will be a matter of time." What's even more terrifying is the impact on the battle between the top powerhouses. As we all know, most of the top powerhouses are not equal in strength, such as the Three Admiral. To decide the winner, at least they have to fight for a few days and nights. In the final outcome, it is very likely that both sides will suffer, and one side wins is also a disastrous victory. But with fairy beans, it's different. When the two top powerhouses are exhausted, one person takes the fairy beans and immediately becomes alive and well. Is this still a woolen thread? For another example, suppose Kaido of the Beasts hits Marine HQ with a few hundred Ps. Then even if Sengoku, Garp, and the Three Admiral come together, they may not be able to do anything to each other, because as long as he can't kill Kaido in one hit, Kaido eats a fairy bean and returns to his peak in a blink of an eye. In such a battle, exhaustion can kill Marine's side. That's what Sengoku and Garp came up with. But there is no good way to think about it. Sengoku sighed. This matter can only be handed over to Dr. Vegapunk to study and see if he can invent something to restrain the fairy beans. The magical effect of fairy beans quickly spread throughout the sea, and aroused the interest and even greed of many strong people. On the Moby Dick, Whitebeard was not interested in fairy beans, and just snorted coldly after hearing about it. "That kid Kaido has really found a good son-in-law." But Marco's eyes flashed, and he said eagerly, "Dad, that fairy bean can heal all injuries. Your body is saved." The aging Whitebeard's body is getting worse day by day, and his strength, reaction ability and other aspects have greatly declined compared to when he was young. Part of the reason is the dark injury he suffered in the past, and the other part is the shock to himself brought by shock fruit. As for Dad's body, Marco, as a ship doctor, has been watching and worried in his heart. Now that there is finally a drug that may heal Dad's body, how can Marco not be ecstatic? No, Whitebeard was furious when he heard it. "Marco, are you asking Losey to beg that kid Kaido?" Losey is Whitebeard. Back in the day when he was on the Rocks ship, Kaido was nothing but an intern. Seeing him Whitebeard, can't respectfully call senior. Now let Whitebeard condescend to beg Kaido. Even killing Whitebeard can't do it. Whitebeard has the dignity of Whitebeard, and this dignity is more important than his life. Marco was scolded by the dog's blood spray, and he could only lower his head in disappointment. In my heart, I thought, I can't ask Kaido of the Beasts, but I can't ask that Liu crossing. If there is a chance to see that Liu Xing, even let him. Marco kneel down for him. The first half of the Grand Line. Hawkeye, who was traveling to East Blue, also got news from Xiandu. In addition to being more curious about Liu Xing, the concubine of all animals. The first person he thought of was Red Hair. To be precise, it was the left arm that the redhead lost. Eat the fairy beans, maybe the redhead left arm will grow back. Hawkeye has always been curious about why the redhead lost a left arm in the weakest East Blue, which is also the reason why he traveled to East Blue this time. After the red hair broke his arm, he never competed with the red hair in swordsmanship again. Hawkeye is very sorry for this, so he hopes that the broken arm of the red hair can grow back. Xiandu, if I have a chance, I have to grab one too. 42. The strong who coveted fairy beans, seeking flower tickets. Add red hair pirates. Eagle-eyed can think that fairy beans can heal the captain's left arm, and the members of the red-haired group can't imagine it. Fatty Reikairu he said, Captain, you don't have to be a one-armed man in the future. The redhead scolded angrily, shut up, I bet this left arm on the new era. Reikairu was eating chicken legs and said disapprovingly, Captain, do you mean that little brat from Luffy? I don't know if he is a pirate in the sea now. I'm afraid it will be years before we know the difference in this new era. Redhead looked helpless. In fact, even if he didn't want to pin the new era on Luffy because of that runner in fruit, Udman's Nika form, it had already been eaten by Luffy. Only the one who eats that fruit can become Joey Boy and finally overthrow the world government. Ben Beckman took a puff of his cigar and said, Reikairu, don't say that. That fruit has some kind of self-will, and since it chose Luffy, there must be a reason. Okay. The captain and co-captain said so, and Reikairu obediently confessed. At this time, Usopp's father, Shinso, handed Usopp back to the topic. Captain Shanks, if you have a chance, you should grab a fairy bin. Losing your left arm will affect your strength somewhat. The redhead nodded helplessly. The left arm was bitten off by the king of the mere offshore sea, and the crew members didn't say anything, but they kept laughing in their hearts. Add such embarrassing things. The red hair has been embarrassed to spread, so Hawkeye, Whitebeard, and others don't know the truth. On Amazon Lily Island in the Grand Line Calm Belt, there is a country full of women. The famous Daughter Country. The king of the Daughter Country is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, who is known as the world's most beautiful woman, Empress Boa Hancock. In addition to the 4 emperors' aunt and Liu Oxing's wife Yamato, as another woman who owns Conqueror's Haki in this sea, Boa Hancock is a proud, indifferent and domineering woman. Her pride, like her beauty, makes people unattainable, even ashamed. However, few people know that behind the arrogant and indifferent outside, there is actually a fragile soul and a painful scar. The 3 Boa Hancock sisters were captured and used as slaves by celestial dragons when they were young. The hoofs of the celestial dragons still remain on the back. This is the shame and painful memory that the 3 Hancock sisters cannot wash away. But today, a piece of news surprised them. The 2 younger sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, hurriedly came to the royal palace and threw away the rest of the kingdom, and said happily, elder sister, Xiandu may be able to remove the traces behind us. On the throne, the Empress, Boa Hancock, had cold red lips and 2 long white legs crossed together. She was wearing a red cheongsam, with 2 golden snake earrings hanging around her ears, and her beautiful black hair fell to her waist. Although Hancock's expression didn't change much, the 2 sisters who knew her could see a hint of excitement flashing in her sister's eyes. Xiandu, is it the invention of Liu Oxing, the concubine of the beasts? Hancock murmured. She has long known about the weird cells invented by Liu Crossing. I just heard that weird cells can make people look ugly, so the queen is not interested. She didn't participate in the last dispute over the monster cells. But this time is different. If Xiandu is really like what the 2 younger sisters said, it will be of great significance to her. Empress Hancock kept calm and asked, Xiandu, can really heal our wounds? Sandersonia and Marigold say, this is news from Marine. It is said that Admiral Ake Ainu said it himself. Immortal bins can regenerate severed limbs and instantly heal all injuries. There should be no mistake. Boa Hancock finally stood up with a moving expression, and the slight conqueror's aura made her hair flutter like catkins. This beautiful and domineering queen resolutely said, search for news about Xiandu at all costs. Even if you offend the beast's pirates, it doesn't matter. Best, we can catch that Liu Oxing to our daughter country. Tens of thousands of meters above East Blue, no one knew that there was an island floating there. This island is not a sky island, because it is not composed of solidified clouds, and there is nothing dragging under it, and it does not float with any external force. There is only one person in the entire ocean who can do this, that is, the legendary big pirate, as famous as Whitebeard and Roger, the only golden lion Shiki in history who successfully escaped from the underwater prison Impel Down. Since breaking out of prison many years ago, Shiki has been hiding in the sky, researching a plant ingredient called IQ with his subordinate scientist Indigo. IQ can make animals extremely ferocious, and Shiki intends to take revenge on the world government by waiting until the time is right. But IQ research is progressing slowly, and Shiki can't wait. It just so happened that he had nothing to do today, so he caught a carrier pigeon flying in the sky, ready to read the long-lost newspaper. At a glance, Golden Lion's eyes suddenly widened. A monster cell that doubles a person's strength? A fairy being that can be reborn from a severed limb? Golden Lion was shocked. The technology below has developed to this extent. Compared with the IQ he spent more than 10 years researching, it is simply weak. Golden Lion carefully read the newspaper and realized that these two heaven-defying technologies were invented by a man named Liu Crossing. He was the son-in-law of Kaido's, who was an intern on the Rock's ship. Interesting, very interesting. The corners of Golden Lion's shocked mouth suddenly opened a cruel and greedy arc. Weird cells and fairy beans are tailor-made for Lozi. Of course, in order to escape from impel down, Shiki cut off both of his own legs. Although a prosthetic leg was made with a sword, it was not as convenient as the original leg. Xiandu can make his Shiki's legs grow back, and the monster cells can greatly increase the strength of his subordinates and increase his bargaining chips for revenge against the world government. These two benefits are enough to make Golden Lion endlessly greedy. 43. Blocking is worse than sparse. Do you want fairy beans? I have to add money. Please ask for a flower ticket. Greed blinded Golden Lion's eyes. Without saying a word, he summoned his subordinates and exclaimed excitedly, "Children, prepare weapons and ammunition for Lozi. Let's attack Wonokuni." Golden Lion's subordinates looked confused. Huh? Is there something wrong with the captain's mind? Wonokuni is the territory of the four emperors. Kaido. Looking at the rudder stuck above Golden Lion's head, his subordinates fell silent for a while. Their captain's brain has really been out of whack since the unfortunate encounter with the rudder in the battle with Rogers at Wall. Sometimes they do weird things. Indigo, a scientist who mainly studies IQ, understood the meaning of Golden Lion and said cautiously, "Captain, do you want to go to Wonokuni to grab the monster cells and fairy beans?" Golden Lion grinned. Of course. As expected, Indigo sighed in his heart. In fact, he had read the newspaper a long time ago, but he deliberately hid it from Golden Lion, because he was afraid that the captain would do something irrational. Indigo advised, "Captain, Kaido of the Beasts is now the four emperors, known as the strongest creature in the sea, land and air. It is not the intern on your ship back then. We have to be cautious." Golden Lion sneered disdainfully. What four emperors? What the strongest creature? Lozi beat him all over the place back then. When Rock's pirate existed, the old nature is Rocks, followed by Golden Lion and Whitebeard, then Big Mom, Ikoku and others, and finally Kaido when he was young. Therefore, the Golden Lion looked down on Kaido at all. But he didn't know that today's Kaido not only ate the Phantom Beast, the Green Dragon Fruit, but also mastered the Conqueror's Twist, which is no longer what it used to be. Indigo has learned about Kaido's horror through newspapers. It's really hard to say who will win and who will lose in the duel between his own captain and Kaido of the Beasts. More critically, Kaido of the Beasts outnumbered their troops. From this point of view, the loss of the Flying Sky Pirates is obviously greater. But Indigo also knew that the captain's decision could not be changed. He thought for a while, then changed his words and said, "Captain, my research on IQ is about to succeed. Why don't you wait a few more days to use IQ to turn all the animals on the island into ferocity, and then attack Wonokuni, so that Kaido of the Beasts will know how terrible you are?" Golden Lion felt that what Indigo said was quite reasonable, and agreed. Indigo breathed a sigh of relief. It could drag on for a day. Ghost Island. Liu Xing has been in the time gravity room, and has practiced in seclusion for 12 days, which is equivalent to a year in the outside world. When he went out, Peggy Wan, who greeted him, only felt an overwhelmingly overbearing and magnificent aura coming towards him. Suddenly, Peggy Wan felt a sense of suffocation, and vaguely, he seemed to see Boss Kaido walking towards him. It took a long time for Peggy to stabilize her mind, and her gaze towards Liu Xing was filled with awe that had never been seen before. "Father-in-law, have you successfully cultivated Conqueror's entanglement?" Liu Xing smiled lightly. "A little bit." Peggy Wan sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Liu Xing said it lightly, he understands that a concubine who has learned Conqueror's entanglement is enough to crush him even if he doesn't eat devil fruit and monster cells. Even Yanji, the strongest among the three disasters and Liu Ping, may not be the opponent of Liu Xing's concubine. "What about you, Xiao Pei? How has your practice been recently?" Liu Xing asked casually. Peggy Wan had a wry smile on his face. "Compared to you, concubine consort, elephants are better than ants. But there has been some progress. I feel that I am one step closer to the evolution of phantom beasts." Liu Xing patted Pijawan's shoulder. "Come on, Pei." Speaking of which, he had fooled Pijawan back then, saying that he would help him evolve the phantom beast species, but he has yet to do it. Still a little guilty thinking about it. Liu Xing walked towards his father-in-law Kaido's palace. Peggy Wan leaned forward and whispered, "Father-in-law, Boss Kaido has been in a very bad mood recently." "What's wrong?" "It's not Jack's idiot. When he went out to take revenge on Marine, he accidentally leaked the information of Xiandu, and now the whole sea knows." Liu Xing laughed inwardly. As expected of relying on the ship king, I got into trouble again. "And then?" "Then the group of people outside went crazy, and they all wanted fairy beans." Peggy Wan counted his fingers and said, "There is the Empress Boa Hancock, the red-haired shanks of the four emperors, the Aunt Charlotte Linlin, the giant clan of Elbaf, and a lot of people, hey, including the hypocritical world government, also quietly sent CP0 over. Liu Xing stopped. A name caught his attention. Empress Boa Hancock, the world's #1 beauty, and his wife Yamato are beautiful in their own ways. Liu Xing's eyes flickered, and he quickly figured out why the Empress wanted fairy beans. It must be to get rid of the hoof of celestial dragons on her back. Peggy One's voice continued, by the way, and Joker. That nasty guy dared to threaten Kaido boss with the smile fruit. The Joker, the Quixote Doflamingo, the go-between in the underworld, is closely related to Kaido. He owns the production factory of the artificial devil fruit smile, the basement of Dressrosa, and a weapons exchange. Doflamingo made a lot of money by selling Kaido's smile fruits to provide weapons to wars around the world. But Doflamingo should be extremely afraid of his father-in-law Kaido's. How could he have the guts to threaten him? Peggy One answered the questions for Liu Crossing. That bastard of Joker, he ate a monster cell by himself, and his strength increased greatly, and he was a little overwhelmed. He created 100 new smile fruits, and colluded with a group of so-called kings of the underground world, in exchange for fairy bins from Kaido boss. It turned out to be so. Liu Xing understood. This is not really a threat. At most it is a transaction with a bit of compulsion. Liu Xing's deep eyes showed a contemplative look. Profits will make people crazy, especially the gang of villains in the underground world, who even dared to snatch Aunt's eccentric cells. Although Wano is located in a dangerous place, with his father-in-law Kaido guarding it, no one can attack it. But if things go on like this, their 100 beasts will undoubtedly become the target of public criticism on the sea, which is greatly detrimental to future development and expansion. Blocking is worse than sparse. Liu Xing smiled suddenly. He already had a plan. Since so many people want fairy beans, take out a few and let them grab them. However, the premise is to add money. 44. Fairy bin auction. The sea is boiling. Ask for a flower ticket. When Liu Xing came to Kaido Palace, Kaido was furious. Joker, he's really good at it. How dare you threaten Lozi, and don't send the smile fruit to Lozi immediately. Kaido's body like a mountain exudes a terrifying aura. The sturdy dragon horns, the knotted muscles, and the black lightning that flowed all over the body made the people from the 3 disasters and flying 6 nations beside them tremble with fear. Liu Xing, however, was not affected, and calmly walked up to Kaido and said, "Father-in-law, why should you be angry with a little Shikibukai?" Kaido first asked about Liu Xing's cultivation progress, and after complimenting him, he said angrily, "Not only the Joker, but also that dead old woman Linlin, that red-haired brat, and the bastards of the world government, all of them want to grab Lozi's fairy beans." Facing so many coveted forces, even Kaido felt a lot of pressure. At the same time, even more angry. Those guys, when he's dignified Kaido of the beasts is a soft persimmon! Liu Xing smiled slightly and said, "If they want it, then give it to them." What? Kaido was stunned, and the 3 disasters and Flu Bao were also stunned. How could Liu Xing's concubine say such words that boost others' ambition and destroy his own prestige? When have their beasts pirates ever been afraid of others? Kaido was displeased. What kind of person is Lozi? Liu Xing explained with a smile. Of course it's not for nothing. If they want fairy beans, they not only have to pay more, but also see if they have the life to take it. What's the meaning? Everyone looked confused. Liu Xing explained the plan he had just thought of. My father-in-law must also know that because of the monster cells and fairy beans, our 100 beasts have a tendency to become the target of the sea. Although we are not afraid, it is somewhat unfavorable for future development. Therefore, my son-in-law thinks that blocking is worse than sparseness, so he might as well take out a few fairy bins and let the group of people snatch their heads and blood. Let's take advantage of the fisherman. Kaido's eyes lit up when he heard it. This is a path he has never imagined, and it is much smarter than just losing his temper. Liu Xing's voice continued. Of course, our fairy bins didn't come out for nothing. I plan to hold a fairy bin auction. The reserve price is 300 million Baileys, and the person with the highest price will get it. As for the person who buys the fairy bean, it is none of our business whether they can keep it or not. Fairy bin auction? Kaido, Jin, Quinn and others almost applauded on the spot. This idea is absolutely amazing. On the one hand, it attracted the attention of the major forces, so that they should not keep staring at the beast group. On the other hand, the bidding price of Xiandu will definitely be very high, at least not lower than the billion Bailey of the tiger-level monster cells at that time. This is destined to bring a large amount of money to the beast group, which is faster than going out to grab money. Liu Xing's idea is really a one-stone kill. Kaido was overjoyed and couldn't close his mouth when he smiled. Son-in-law, the position of the Governor-General of being a father is simply worthy of you. How long is your brain? Yan Calamity also sincerely admired. Master Consort is not only unparalleled in invention, but also in wisdom. Liu Xing hurriedly raised his hand and said, Father-in-law, Jin, please don't praise me. I haven't finished my words yet. And the following? Isn't Liu Xing's plan not just killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Kaido, Jin and the others grumbled in their hearts and looked at Liu Oxing like a monster. Liu Oxing cleared his throat and said, Doflamingo just ate a low-level weirdo cell, and he dared to threaten his father-in-law for not delivering the smile fruit, which is really daring. I think it's better to just kill Doflamingo, and give his smile factory and weapon exchange to our hands. Kaido and Jin were all at a loss. We are going to hold an auction of fairy beans again, and we are going to destroy Doflamingo. Which one do you do first? Liu Oxing's answer is to do two things together. We set a venue for the fairy bean auction at Dressrosa. Doesn't Doflamingo want fairy beans? He will definitely not disagree. We entered Dressrosa in the name of escorting the fairy beans, looking for an opportunity to destroy Doflamingo and his Quixote family. In this way, the entire Dressrosa will become the site of our beast group. The voice fell. The whole palace was quiet, including Kaido's. Everyone was shocked by Liu Oxing's meticulous plan to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. What is a multi-wisdom near-demon? This is. Peggy 1 was particularly shocked. It was him who greeted Liu Oxing out of the customs. He just told Liu Oxing about those things on the way. Unexpectedly, in such a short period of time, the concubine came up with such a bold but extremely feasible plan. Really admirable 5-body cast. Kaido sighed. Son-in-law, maybe I should give you my position as governor. Liu Oxing smiled modestly. Kaido then swept his gaze to Sensei and Fu Bao, and asked Liu Oxing, who should do this? Liu Oxing was the one who proposed the plan, and he was definitely going to Dressrosa. One more person is needed to ensure that Doflamingo and his family Cardos can be killed. Liu Oxing had considered this for a long time and said directly, just let Fuzzy Fu and I enter Dressrosa together. In addition, let Runty and Pijuan lead 200 empowered core and 100 fur tribe warriors to respond outside in case of an accident. A humming voice sounded, Master Consort, let me go with you too. Liu Oxing looked at him and took the initiative to invite Jack the Drill. Liu Oxing laughed. You have offended Admiral Ake Ainu badly recently. If Ake Ainu learns of your whereabouts and rushes to Dressrosa, won't our plan be in vain? Jack had to withdraw in disappointment. Things are settled. The 100 beasts quickly spread the news that they were going to hold a fairy bean auction in Dressrosa. In an instant, the whole sea was boiling. 45. Unexpectedly attractive, the auction with the participation of heroes. IWC. Big Mom Charlotte Lin is throwing a tantrum. What kind of fairy bean auction? That bastard Kaido's owes my mother a great favor. Do you think it can be paid off so easily? After learning about the magical effect of Xiandu, Auntie called Kaido without saying a word and asked for Xiandu. Kaido flatly refused. Without the slightest surprise, the two of them greeted each other in a friendly way, and sent heartfelt wishes to each other for how they didn't die. Mom was really angry. Think back to when Whitebeard, Golden Lion and others bullied Kaido every day on the Rocks boat. Only Charlotte Lin was good to Kaido. At the critical moment of the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, she even gave the other party a fruit in the form of a phantom beast, a blue dragon. Such a great kindness, that old boy Kaido said that he would forget it. Comforting category, the head of the stars, said, Mom, no matter what, Beast's pirates finally came up with fairy beans. The key now is to prepare funds to go to Dressrosa and bid for those fairy beans. The aunt was still angry, but she couldn't do anything about Kaido, so she said, category, I'll leave this matter to you. I must bring back the fairy beans for my mother. Don't worry, Mum. Category's straight body said proudly. Here, he has a plan in mind. With the strength of his deputy level, and the foreseeable future observation haki, even Doflamingo who ate monster cells, Category did not take it seriously. On the Moby Dick. Except for Whitebeard himself, the captains of each division were very excited about the news of the fairy bean auction. Be sure to buy back a fairy bean to heal Dad. This is the consensus of the captains, and further Whitebeard's body really worries them. The Phoenix Marker volunteered. Dad, let me go. This time it's not for Kaido, it's just money to buy it. Whitebeard was silent. His dignity does not allow him to bow to anyone. Seeing that Dad didn't speak, Marco knelt down and kowtowed heavily. Dad. The captains such as Diamond Joes and Foil Beast also knelt down and pleaded. Dad, just promise. Marco, facing the filial piety of his sons, even though Whitebeard was reluctant to buy Kaido's things, he had no choice but to agree. Marco was overjoyed to see this. Immediately get people to prepare a lot of money. Among the 4 emperors, Whitebeard's territory is the largest, and his financial resources are also very rich. After Marco got billions of Baileys, he was about to set off without stopping. Someone called him to a halt. Hey, Marco, do you want me to go with you? Marco looked back, but it was the captain of the second team, Huoquan, and smiled. No, I'll do it alone. Don't you still believe in my strength? The captains all laughed. With the power of Marco's Phoenix Fruit, even if the 4 emperors' admiral personally shot him, it would be very difficult to kill him. At this time, a ship on the sea just returned and saw that the flag was that of the captain of the 4th division. After Sachi learned about Marco's purpose, he excitedly said, Can Xiandu treat Dad? That's great. By the way, Marco, I'm afraid I won't see you for a while. I'm going out on an adventure this time, and I got a strange devil fruit. Do you want to see it now? Marco Ishin thought about fairy beans, what about devil fruit, and waved his hand. Come back and watch, I'm leaving, bye. Marco didn't care about Sachi's words, and neither did the other captains. There was only one person. A strange light flashed in his seemingly simple and honest eyes. Red Hair Pirates. Shanks and Ben Beckman are more concerned about the auction itself than the fairy beans. With their minds, they could roughly see the intention of the 100 beasts to hold this auction. Beckman said, using the auction to attract the attention of the heroes, the group of animals doesn't have to be the target of public criticism, and can still reap the benefits. It's a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Shanks agrees. Wisdom, like Beckman, Shanks saw the second floor of the fairy bin auction. Unfortunately, Liu Oxing was standing on the 5th floor. Beckman wondered again, just this way, it's not like Kaido of the beasts. I'm afraid that Liu Oxing, the concubine of the beasts, came up with it. I'm really getting more and more curious about this guy. This person's ability to invent and create is already heaven-defying, and with such a brain, he will surely become our great enemy in the future. All the members of the Redhead group nodded solemnly. Finally, the Redheads sent Fat Ray Kairu to Dressrosa for the auction. A brightly lit street somewhere in New World, with a pretty face and intoxicating eyes, Queen of the Pleasure District Stussy, wearing a small white hat, took a sip of red wine and burned the information in her hand to ashes. The world government ordered me to participate in the fairy bin auction. It seems that the CP0 guys and Kaido of the Beasts did not get in touch well. Forget it, let's go. This seemingly sweet and simple woman, on the surface, is Queen of the Pleasure District, one of the kings of the underground world, but her actual identity is a spy of the world government. Daughter country. The Empress Boa Hancock, who heard the news of Xiandu, decided to take care of herself. The immortal bins meant too much to her, and she could not afford to lose it. East Blue. Hawkeye looked at the newspaper in his hand. Immortal bin auction? Redhead should send someone to participate, but unfortunately I'm too far away from Dressrosa, but I can't go there. Baldigo. The island of white soil. This is the most mysterious Revolutionary Army headquarters. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon, son of Marine hero Garp, said to the young man in front of him, Sabo, I'll leave it to you this time. With Xiandu, the casualties of the Revolutionary Army brothers will be greatly reduced in the future. The second in command of the Revolutionary Army, Chief of Staff Sabo, who is regarded by Long as his successor, said with a firm expression, guaranteed to complete the task, Mr. Long. Liu Oxing probably wouldn't have thought that the news of his immortal bin auction would attract so many powerful people. Even the Revolutionary Army, which has always been the most mysterious, intends to intervene. This auction is destined to be very exciting. 46. The Proud Doflamingo, for flower tickets. Dressrosa. The top floor of the High Palace. Heavenly Yakshaw Doflamingo had a pleasant smile on his face as he drank leisurely. This time, he dared to use 100 smile fruits to blackmail Kaido, requesting to trade 5 fairy beans. I thought Kaido would be furious, and maybe even trouble him. Unexpectedly, Kaido of the Beasts, who has always been domineering and tyrannical, actually agreed, although it is not a direct transaction with him. But an auction is going to be held, and there are many prices. But according to Doflamingo, the two forms are not too different. After all, the auction venue is in his home base, Dressrosa, and it is his home court. Can he still suffer? Kaido's promise made Doflamingo extremely proud. After eating the monster cells, his strength has greatly increased, and he is the so-called strongest Kaido of the Beasts, and he does not dare to ignore his opinions like before. Doflamingo thought happily that after getting the fairy bins this time, he would ask Kaido for some weird cells next time. Let the Cardas of his Donquixote family also eat the monster cells. In this way, even if his power is comparable to that of the 4 emperors, it is not too much. Doflamingo, who became more and more excited, drank the wine in one gulp and asked the woman standing in front of the window, Violet, have you seen the boat of the concubine of the beasts? The woman in front of the window, like a blooming violet, exudes a fatal attraction all the time. She is the former princess of Dressrosa and now Viola, the Carda of the Donquixote family. Viola, who has the ability to stare at fruit, has a maximum detection range of 4,000 kilometers. On Doflamingo's orders, she has been here looking out to the sea in the distance, checking for the warships of the beasts' pirates. I see, the warships of the 100 beasts have entered Dressrosa's waters. Doflamingo looked overjoyed and continued to ask, how many people are on the boat? Did that mysterious beast consort Liu Oxing really come in person? Viola controlled his eyesight, carefully examining the distant warship. Kaido, there are only 2 people, except for some little ones. One wearing a red cloak should be Fuzzy F from Flying 6, and the other. How about the other one? Doflamingo's voice was eager. He is extremely curious about Liu Oxing, who invented the monster cell and fairy beans. A strange look appeared on Viola's face. The other one wears the mask of the evil spirit Prajna, and can't see the appearance. Evil ghost Prajna mask? Doflamingo was startled, then smiled evilly. This concubine of beasts is really mysterious. Forget it. It doesn't matter what his real face is. Just bring the fairy bins to Lozi. Come on, Violet. Let's go to the port to meet this distinguished guest. After all, Doflamingo leapt out the window like a flaming flamingo, with comical steps in the air, towards the port. Viola looked at Doflamingo's back. Her submissive expression disappeared. Instead, it is a deep hatred. How could she forget the bloody feud that destroyed the country and the family? Exclamation mark. It's just that Doflamingo's strength is now more terrifying than before, and even Kaido of the beasts has to sell his face. Can she still avenge her bloody vengeance? Even though Viola has the ability to stare at the fruit, she can't see her future at all. A pair of brown eyes were full of confusion. On the 100 Beast Regiment warship, Liu Xing raised his eyebrows suddenly. Just now he felt like he was being spied on. How far is it from Dressrosa? Liu Xing asked Fuzfu, who was beside him. Fuzfu said, it's less than 4,000 miles away. Liu Xing's eyes flickered slightly. Being able to peep at such a long distance is undoubtedly the ability to stare at the fruit. Liu Xing, who is a transmigrator, already knows who the spy just now. Thinking of the man's grievances with Doflamingo, Liu Xing's mouth evoked a playful arc. It's just that under the mask of Prajna, even Garrett, the little maid with bunny ears who has been paying attention to him, didn't find it. Liu Xing came out this time and brought Garrett with him on purpose. After all, in Wano Kuni, under the nose of his wife Yamato, he and rabbit-eared girl really don't have much space to be alone. The warship continued to sail. After half a day, finally arrived at Dressrosa. Doflamingo, who had been waiting for a long time, and the cadres of his family rushed forward to greet him. After some hypocritical politeness, Doflamingo asked curiously, Liu Xing's concubine, that fairy bin that can heal all the wounds in the world, can you show us? Liu Xing glanced at Doflamingo with a half-smiling half-smile, who was clearly testing whether he really brought Xiandu. Liu Xing took out 5 small green pills. The cadres of the Quixote family immediately widened their eyes and looked around. Doflamingo was even more eager to reach for it. Liu Xing put away the fairy bins one step faster and said with a smile, at the auction in 3 days, you will take the fairy bins away, and it's not too late to go home. Doflamingo's eyes flickered with displeasure, but he didn't show it. It is not a wise move to offend Liu Xing, the consort of 100 beasts. Doflamingo hid his true thoughts and said with a smile on his face, Liu Xing's concubine has worked hard all the way. Let's go to the palace to rest first. Everyone went to the palace. Liu Xing was like a leisurely stroll, and there were many eyes around him looking at him. After all, this is Liu Xing's first official appearance in the outside world. It's just that the Prajna mask he wears has disappointed many people. That concubine of the beasts is really careful, and she doesn't even want to reveal her true face. In the shadows, someone whispered. At this time, Dressrosa, there are too many people who are attracted by fairy beans, and they are mixed. Among them, there are many well-known powerhouses in New World. With a bounty of 1.5 billion Baileys, the so-called Fifth Sea Emperor turned out to be a coward who didn't even dare to show his true colors. Hey, his bounty is high not because of his strength, but because of his invention. As far as inventions are concerned, the threat of this person to the world government is probably higher than that of the 4 emperors. In this sea, only strength is king. The countless eyes hidden in the shadows are curious, greedy, contemptuous, and murderous. 47. Viola's bold strategy, seeking flower tickets. Liu Xing didn't pay any attention to those eyes in the shadows. Like a tourist, he looked at the town of Dressrosa along the way. It is very prosperous here. The women are active and enthusiastic. The men are gentlemen and elegant, and everyone has a bright smile on their faces. Compared to the previous Wano Kuni, this place is simply heaven. However, Liu Xing knew that the surface of Dressrosa's happiness was false, and the darkness behind it was heavier than Wano Kuni. Those happy and smiling people have just forgotten those who are extremely important to them. A childlike fruit that turns people into toys. Let the irresistible toys go to the smile factory as coolies. This is the truth of Dressrosa. Doflamingo held a grand banquet at the palace. All the senior officials of the Quixote family, with the exception of Virgo, who was undercover in Marine, were present. Starting from Doflamingo, toast Liu Xing one by one. Liu Xing is open to all who come. When it was a woman's turn as fragrant as violets, the woman said, little girl Viola, toast Liu Crossing. Liu Xing did not drink, his eyes flickered slightly, and he said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, don't you know it's dangerous to stare at a man all the time, especially a beautiful woman like you. Viola's hand holding the glass trembled violently. The originally submissive eyes suddenly raised, staring at Liu Xing with shock and panic. Could it be that her gaze had already been discovered by the mysterious consort of the beasts in front of her? Was it discovered as early as 4,000 miles away? This guy's observation haki is too scary. Viola tried her best to suppress the agitation in her heart, forced a smile, and said, Lord Liu Oxing is handsome and handsome. The little girl inevitably gave her a few more glances. Then he drank the wine in his hand and left in a panic. Liu Oxing's mouth twitched. Doflamingo noticed this scene, and when he saw Viola coming over, he looked very displeased. What did you just say to that beast consort? No. Nothing. Doflamingo's eyes showed suspicion, and he said coldly, Violet, the royal family of the liquor family is already over. You are my subordinate now. Don't think about using the power of others to deal with me. Viola's jade face became extremely pale. Doflamingo then said viciously, I'll go to your room tonight. There was no blood on Viola's face. Although she was an undercover agent, Doflamingo was not a good person and never really believed her. On the contrary, Doflamingo has always wanted to get her completely, conquer her, so that she can never betray her again. Viola has held on for so many years. Can she still refuse Doflamingo tonight? When the banquet ended, Viola didn't know. She was in a trance and went back to her room in despair. Waiting for that devil-like man to come. No, no, he is my enemy. How can I surrender? Exclamation mark. Ultimate's hatred and unwillingness rose in Viola's heart. Her fists clenched tightly, her nails sinking into her flesh. The red blood flowed out. She has to save herself and don't let Doflamingo succeed, or she'll really be part of the Donquixote family, and there's no turning back. But, throughout Dressrosa, who can save her? Who dares to fight against Doflamingo? In normal times, this question is definitely unanswered. But at this time Dressrosa, there was just one person. And that person, not only can deal with Doflamingo, but also enough to make Doflamingo dare not offend. There is no doubt that that person is Liu Oxing, the concubine of the beasts. But Viola remembered what the man said when she was toasting Liu Oxing at the banquet, and he hesitated again. Her intuition told her that he was a man more terrifying than Doflamingo. Not something she could use and control. If she uses Liu Oxing to deal with Doflamingo, it is very likely that she will escape from the wolf's den and enter the tiger's mouth again. Viola was in a tangle, struggling. After an unknown amount of time, Viola's eyes became firm. Even if it is given to the concubine of the beasts, I will never let the enemy Doflamingo succeed. She made up her mind and decided to invite Liu Oxing to her room. Viola quickly found Liu Oxing's room with the ability to stare at the fruit. Looking inside, the pretty face turned red all of a sudden. That person is actually with the maid, Rabbit Tianyang. Viola hurriedly retracted her powers, her heart thumping violently. The picture just now had such a powerful impact on her that it shattered her previous worldview. Liu Oxing room. The little maid Garrett asked suspiciously, Master, what's the matter? Liu Oxing put on his shirt and calmly said, It's nothing, I'll go out. Yes, Master. Garrett nodded obediently, and the long rabbit ears were cutely bent. Liu Oxing went straight to Viola's residence, and walked in without knocking on the door. Did you just see it? Liu Oxing looked at the blushing woman lightly. Viola spat. I didn't expect you to be such a person. Liu Oxing approached Viola and said with a cold smile, You'll know more clearly now what kind of person I am. Viola backed away in panic. This man is really not something she can use, and the development of things is simply beyond her control. Liu Oxing hugged Viola's slender waist. A rich violet fragrance lingers on the nose. Viola resisted at first, but suddenly stopped resisting, because she saw Doflamingo walking towards her. 48. Those who do great things are informal. Doflamingo is in a really good mood lately. Since eating the monster cells, his strength has greatly improved. The ability of string fruit has been awakened, and Haki's cultivation has also improved to some extent. At the same time, he also secretly formed an alliance with Feld and Pierrot, two kings of the underground world. Feld is the king of sea usury, the currency of the master's underground world. Pycro is the king of killers, the master of the killer realm of the underground world. With the support of these two people, Doflamingo is now at the peak of both strength and power. That's why he dared to use the smile fruit to coerce Kaido to trade fairy beans. And Kaido's agreement made him even more inflated. 7 warlords of the sea, the middleman of the dark world, the king of Dressrosa, the noble celestial dragons. I am unique in the world with so many identities at the same time. Ha 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 ha. Doflamingo let out a low, sinister, terrifying laugh, and behind his scarlet sunglasses was a frenzied, wildly ambitious gaze. Lozi is the last to sit on the throne. Kaido, 4 emperors, marine, world government, all will be destroyed. Doflamingo grinned, his hands in his pockets, cropped trousers, a pink bird fur coat, red pointed-toed shoes, and splayed legs. He walked towards Viola's room with steps that he did not recognize. Before he can carry out his ambition, he must completely conquer the disobedient rose with thorns. But the next moment, when Doflamingo's observation Haki inadvertently sensed the situation in Viola's house, the smirk on his face froze, become very stiff. Then the smile disappeared completely, and the muscles of his face twitched violently. Viola, that bitch. Boundless rage rose from Doflamingo's heart. What does he feel? Naturally, Liu Oxing and Viola are intertwined. Although Doflamingo is an arrogant person, he is not a fool. In order to prevent him from succeeding, Viola would rather take the initiative to find Liu Oxing, the concubine of the beasts she met for the first time, use this to humiliate him and anger him. After all, Doflamingo is a hero who will do anything to achieve his goals. He has always been regarded as a woman who is forbidden, but he has turned into the arms of others. Such a huge humiliation, a man would be extremely angry and unbearable. The veins on Doflamingo's forehead swelled up like a steel wire. Terrifying murderous aura converged on his increasingly hideous face. It seems that in the next second, he will rush into the room and kill. However, a minute, 2 minutes passed, and Doflamingo remained motionless. It didn't take long for him to turn around and leave with an extremely gloomy face. Such humiliation, Doflamingo actually endured it without even saying a word. Compared with his ambitious speech just now, it seemed extraordinarily ridiculous. Inside the room, Viola used the staring fruit ability to see Doflamingo endure humiliation and leave, and her heart was never happy. That devil, there will be a day to endure humiliation. That devil, there will be a day when he dares to be angry and dare not speak. Viola smiled, smiling happily. Even if she was held by a man, she no longer panicked. She closed her eyes, ready to let the man do whatever he wanted. Unexpectedly, the man let go of her. Liu Oxing said coldly, "You want to provoke my relationship with Doflamingo?" Obviously, with Liu Oxing's knowledge, it is impossible not to notice the situation outside the door. Viola opened her eyes in surprise, and said silently for a while, "I just want to save myself, but it's not bad to provoke your relationship by the way." Liu Oxing looked at the woman in front of her with deep meaning, but she was honest. Liu Oxing suddenly laughed, stretched out his right hand, and slowly slid down Viola's pretty face, playing with his taste. Everyone has the instinct to protect themselves. You don't want to surrender to the enemy. It's really understandable to do so. Viola's body trembled. Does this man know her past? As for provoking my relationship with Doflamingo, it's a trivial matter. Viola was even more at a loss. How could this be such a small thing? Doflamingo has the man-made devil fruit that your beasts want, so why don't you take out fairy beans to trade? However, it is an unforgivable sin for you to take advantage of me. Viola bit her lower lip. I'll give myself to you. Liu Oxing laughed casually, shook his head and said, "Not enough, far from enough. Woman, you are too naive and bold to use me against Doflamingo without even knowing what kind of person I am." Viola's tan eyes revealed panic. What do you want? Liu Oxing tilted his head, slowly approached Viola's ear, and said softly, "Don't you have a niece, your sister's daughter?" As soon as the voice entered his ears, Viola's pupils dilated as if struck by lightning. At this moment, she suddenly regretted why she took the initiative to find Liu crossing. If Doflamingo is a devil, then the man in front of her is the devil in hell. Doflamingo gloomily returned to the top floor of the palace. Terepol, the top carder of the Donquixote family, was very surprised, but he knew what the young master was going to do tonight. He asked, "Why did the young master come back?" Doflamingo didn't say a word, just opened a bottle of spirits and drank it in one breath. Immediately, he smashed the wine bottle and said, "That bitch went to Liu Oxing." "What?" Terepol said angrily. "How dare Violet do this?" "Dover, you are the man who wants to become the pirate king. How can you tolerate this kind of humiliation?" "Go and kill that bitch." Terepol, as Doflamingo's young leader, has a very high status in the Donquixote family, and can even teach Dover a lesson. Doflamingo calmed down at this moment, took a deep breath and said, "As long as that Liu Oxing is still in Dressrosa, I can't do this. Otherwise, we will offend the beast's pirates to death." Terepol thought this was indeed the case. Although the strength of their Donquixote family is at its peak, it is still far inferior to that of the beasts. Also, Liu Oxing still has the fairy beans they want, and they can't be offended at this time anyway. Wanting to understand this, Terepol immediately changed his mind and persuaded, "Dover, it's just a woman, and those who do big things don't care about the little things." Doflamingo's mouth twitched. His character is the canthus that must be reported. But at this moment, he could only grit his teeth and agree, those who do big things, don't stick to trifles. 49. The Pirate Queen arrives. Dressrosa is sensational. The next day, when Liu Oxing saw Doflamingo again, the latter seemed to have forgotten what happened last night and smiled brilliantly. "How's Mr. Liu Oxing resting? Are you still adapting to our Dressrosa environment?" Liu Oxing said lightly. "Dressrosa deserves to be called the country of passion and fairies. I went out for a walk last night, and I fully felt the enthusiasm. The girls here are very moist." Doflamingo's face changed suddenly, and the fist in his sleeve clenched. "This guy is taking Viola laughing at him." Terepol stepped forward and whispered in Doflamingo's ear, "Dover, don't get angry. Those who make big things don't care about small details." Doflamingo's clenched fist loosened, and the smile on his face bloomed again. "Ha ha ha, Lord Liu Oxing is really good at joking." The heart is full of anger, and even killing intent. The so-called clay figurine still has 3 points of anger. This beast concubine not only arbitrarily asked for a woman that should belong to him, but also mocked him in public, which is simply unbearable. But those who achieve great things can endure what ordinary people can't bear. Doflamingo endures it. Liu Oxing admired Doflamingo's patience. He looked at the other person's yellow hair and wanted to say whether he would consider dyeing it green, but he didn't say it. Now is not the time to turn against Doflamingo. After all, the fairy bins haven't been auctioned yet, and the money hasn't arrived yet. The group came to Dressrosa's competitive arena. 2 days later, the fairy bin auction will be held here. On a battle arena in the center of the arena, dozens of figures were fighting in chaos. They are Doflamingo's prisoners here, and like animals, they have to fight each other every day for cheers from the audience. There are restrictions on the weight of the clothes and weapons on a gladiator, so everyone wears very little. Among them was a pink-haired girl who looked young, with only a few gold chains covering her entire body. Liu Oxing glanced at the girl, and then swept to Viola, who was standing in the Don Quixote family's cutter. Viola noticed Liu Oxing's gaze, and her body trembled. Thinking of what the other party said in her ear last night, Viola can't wait to shout now, "Rebecca, run, we are being targeted by a more terrifying demon than Doflamingo." I never had the guts to shout. Viola knew clearly that the reason why Doflamingo hadn't done anything to her was because of Liu Oxing's existence. It can be said that Liu Oxing is equivalent to her Rebecca. She can't resist this demon king, and the weak Rebecca can't resist even more. At the coast of Dressrosa, the little fellows of the Don Quixote family were idle and had nothing to do when they suddenly saw a luxury mahogany ship approaching from the sea in the distance. Seeing the pattern on the flag of the ship, the little fellows' eyes suddenly widened, and they opened their mouths and stammered, "That's the 9 Snakes Pirates." The woman standing on the deck, could it be the world's most beautiful woman, Boa Hancock? The Empress of Shikibukai, who is the same as Doflamingo-sama? It must be her. She is so beautiful, more beautiful than Lord Violet. Pirate Queen, why did she come to our Dressrosa? Nonsense, not for the fairy bin auction. But for what? The arrival of the Empress Boa Hancock immediately caused a sensation on the island. Although Dressrosa at this time has gathered a lot of powerhouses who are famous in New World, but they all hide their tracks, and it's the first to be as high profile as Boa Hancock. In a high-rise building, a sturdy middle-aged man dressed as a sergeant put down the telescope in his hand and whispered in shock, "Boa Hancock, what does she want? Fairy beans?" 9 Snake Island is surrounded by calm belt, surrounded by sea kings, and no one can attack it. Although he had doubts in his heart, the middle-aged man did not hesitate and instructed a soldier behind him, "Hurry up and report the news of Boa Hancock's arrival to Dressrosa to Marshal Sengoku." "Yes, Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral." This sturdy middle-aged man is the Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel, the elite of the headquarters sent by Marine secretly, and he can be called the strongest combat force under Admiral. Behind a big rock on the coast, a young man with a water pipe and a water plant in his mouth said lightly, "It's really unexpected that the Pirate Queen, who is known for being cold and inhumane, is also here." Next to the young man, there was a girl about his age. The girl's face changed slightly when she saw Hancock. "I may know why the Pirate Queen came to grab the fairy beans." "Oh, why, Koala?" asked the young man, Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army Sabo curiously. The girl Koala responded, "Sabo, you should know that I was captured by Tanlong and used as a slave when I was a child. The Pirate Queen was locked up with me at that time." Sabo's eyes widened in disbelief. Did the unattainable Pirate Empress actually become a slave of celestial dragons? What a shocking secret. After a long time, Sabo came back to his senses. Since she has been a slave of celestial dragons, the Pirate Queen wants fairy beans. It must be to remove the hoof of celestial dragons on her back. Sabo looked at Koala again and said seriously, "Koala, I will definitely get a fairy bin for you, so that you can also remove that mark." 50. Diamanti Of Fear. Perfume swimming snake. Pirate Empress Boa Hancock looked indifferently at the port of Dressrosa, which was sensational because of her arrival. Her long black hair reached to the tip of her hips, and her snow-white skin reflected a radiant brilliance under the sunlight and sea water. Her eyes are big and the eyelashes are longer, showing the coldness of the Empress in the blink of an eye. She was wearing a bright red cheongsam, and the purple belt was casually tied around the amazingly thin waist, showing her perfect figure more and more. Such a woman, even with her critical eyes, could not find a single flaw in her body. She is indeed the most beautiful woman in the world. The boat was getting closer to the shore. The expressions of the people on the shore gradually changed from shock at the beginning to obsession. Whether it is the pirates of the Don Quixote family, or the common people of Dressrosa, they are all red-eyed. The Pirate Queen is so beautiful, like a fairy. The Empress is looking at me, she is looking at me, ha ha ha. Even if I die for Lady Empress, I'm still willing. I want to drink the bath water of Lady Empress. Me too. A pair of obsessed expressions and words of infatuation. There was disgust in Boa Hancock's eyes. She raised her chin and pointed out a jade finger to everyone. "You disgusting men, you dare to look at your concubine with such eyes, unforgivable." The two slender jade hands suddenly folded together, forming a love-like shape. Murmuramello. Buzz. Circles of love light shot out and flashed over the people on the shore, turning them all into stones. This terrifying sight finally awakened the others. Even though the Pirate Queen is all over the country, she is a powerful Shikibukai, and they can't defend her. The people who woke up were like avoiding snakes and scorpions, including the pirates of the Don Quixote family, all hurriedly hide away. The sharp-eyed one hurried to the arena and told Doflamingo about it. When Doflamingo heard Boa Hancock's arrival, he was obviously surprised, and a gloomy flashed in his eyes. This fairy bean auction, in his opinion, is just a formality, and he is determined to win all the fairy beans. Because Doflamingo is confident that no one dares to snatch him on his turf. But Boa Hancock, the pirate queen, is different. She is not weaker than him, and she is a tricky woman who doesn't take anyone seriously. There is no doubt that the pirate queen will 100% rob him of fairy beans. Doflamingo did not express these thoughts in his heart, turned his head to Liu Oxing and said calmly, "There are other Shikibukai coming, I have to go and see." "I'm sorry." "Say it." He jumped up, stepped on the thread hanging on the cloud, and flew away. Master, are we going?" Garrett asked. "You want to meet the world's most beautiful woman?" Liu Oxing smiled. Garrett nodded innocently and said, "Yes, Master." "Because the maid thinks the Master's wife, Mistress Yamato, is the most beautiful in the world." "Who is more beautiful, Yamato or Boa Hancock?" This Liu Oxing can't be said, each has its own merits. Liu Oxing stood up. "If that's the case, let's go take a look." Liu Oxing did not leave immediately, but said to Viola, "Go and take your niece home, wash it and wait for me." Viola glared at him angrily. The top carder of the Donquixote family, who is also the manager of the arena here, Diamanti, had to step forward to stop him when his face changed. Liu Oxing glanced at the past. His tone was flat. "What? Do you have an opinion?" A huge momentum, like a mountain, fell on Diamanti's head. Diamanti's expression changed dramatically, and cold sweat poured down his forehead. He had never seen such a powerful pressure even on the young master. He had a feeling in a trance that as long as the beast consort in front of him thought, he could kill him just by moving his finger. Diamanti said in a trembling voice, "No, I don't dare." Just as the word no came out, Liu Oxing had already disappeared with his arms around the little maid's waist. The scarlet wings on Fosfu's back spread out, and he glanced at Diamanti with a sneer, as if looking at a clown. Then the wings flapped, chasing Liu Oxing away. Diamanti's legs were weak and he could barely stand. The top guarder, who used to be extremely arrogant, was full of fear and anxiety at this time. How terrifying is the real strength of that beast consort. That one named Fuzzy Fu could even give him a suffocating pressure. When they came to Dressrosa this time, were they really just here to trade fairy beans? Diamanti couldn't even think about it. Viola was also shocked by Liu Oxing's aura, even though that aura didn't affect her at all. But from Diamanti's terrified expression, one or two can be seen. Viola was also puzzled. As Liu Oxing, there is no need to be afraid of Doflamingo. But there is no need to offend Dova. After all, Doflamingo is an important partner of the Beast's pirates. Could it be that the Beast's group doesn't want the smile fruit in the future? Why exactly? Viola looked at Liu Oxing's disappearing back and muttered to herself. There are too many mysteries in that man, like a demon king. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this and join my Patreon if you want to support me. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.